Welcome to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Innovative Strategy is a show designed to help people with their business and personal financial literacy, but not in the way that you've known. This is not your grandpa's financial literacy, as Bill uses his 30 plus years in the financial industry to stretch your financial box from, let's say about a 30,000 foot view of things. Bill and his guests have helped hundreds of clients achieve and surpass their financial goals. If you have any questions, please email Bill at billhasse, that's Bill at billhaase.com, or reach out to him right here at 216thenet at gmail.com. Today, of course, the content of this show is with him. I don't know. The content of this show. That's crazy. It's hit the wrong button. Here. There you go.
Where's our technical team?
There you go. Right. There you go.
Stay off.
All right. I think we're off now. I think I did it. We're good. Anyway, we're just hitting the wrong buttons, doing things. Today, the Queens Gambit, a corporate game of chess. Welcome in, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, Ken. How you doing?
If I can hit
You
the
having
right
a rough
buttons,
morning?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. Maybe that another cup of coffee might help you out.
That's right.
I wonder. There's a lot of things going on here.
Yes.
That I think we need to bring to the attention of our listeners.
Yeah,
and
216 Studios is blowing up and doing great things right now. This is the first time that your show is live on Twitter. So if you go to @studios_216, you can check out Innovative Strategies live on Twitter. We are out on TuneIn. We signed up with TuneIn Radio. They reached out to us because of the great things we're doing. They have over 30 million subscribed listeners, but also that acts as an RSS feed, which shoots us out. So if you have Apple Music, you pay for Apple Music, you can just search 216 the net, and boom, you can listen live anytime, anywhere, right through Apple Music, which is exciting. So
it's tremendously exciting.
Huge,
I mean,
yeah.
it's growing in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to hear, because the more folks we can reach, maybe the more people we can help.
That's it. So good stuff. Glad to have you back in studio. It's been a few weeks, but glad to have you back.
Yeah, it's intermittent as as business goes. The challenges of building a business, as you know, I'm building a new business, so I understand the trials and tribulations that many of you solopreneurs, entrepreneurs are going through. I have been going through them all of this year, and continue on that challenging path, that roller coaster path that entrepreneurs go on.
Oh yeah.
But today, our special guest here, we have Evan Rebin here. He is a national chess master.
That's awesome.
All right, and right. And I had the pleasure of being on his podcast, and we were discussing, what does chess have to do with business?
Yeah.
And so I said, let's bring Evan on, because he's got a business that goes into the corporate world and helps people understand the value of what chess can bring into play and into your life. So Evan, welcome on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's my sincere pleasure being here, and appreciate you having me.
Yeah, you're all the way from New York. I'm an old Jersey boy, so I understand that you're New York and get your cup of coffee.
I got my coffee and orange juice right here.
So are you on the Upper West Side?
I live on the Upper East Side. I happen to be in Riverdale at the moment. Because I have a in-person coaching at a Yeshiva League match just after this. So right at 11 o'clock. So.
Oh, gotcha. Well, let's get right to it then. So let's you go into the corporate world and do some teachings. What is that about?
Yeah, so we've had the privilege of teaching at Google, Citigroup, other major corporations, and really we enjoy teaching business and life skills through the game. So my good friend Jim Egerton, who's actually based in Chicago as well, wrote a book called Business on the Board. We do a lot together. In addition to teaching the rules and basic strategy. We're also teaching business skills through the game. So, for instance, on one hand, you need to mitigate risk, but at the same time, you need to uh, take some risks to have a good chance at winning. There's also certain things in like organizational behavior where every single employee needs to have a job, just like the pieces on the board. And of course, there's a whole lot more. But um, yeah, when we're teaching chess, it's not just chess, but it's business skills as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I was on your podcast, one of the things we talked about was, strategy.
Right.
Strategy is very, very important. And with each opponent that say you face, you might have a different strategy, right? Because you learn a little bit about your opponent, which might be, in this case, let's insert client or new
Right.
client, and you want to kind of learn about them, right? And you want to learn maybe a little bit about their culture, their mission, what they're about, so you can strategize on how to potentially sell into them or work with them. Um, and just as much the same way, right? You have different opponents, you go about it with different strategies. Um, Strategies aren't always, they're like any other plan, right? They're not perfect. You're always going to have to adjust. I mean, I imagine you go through that quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's in fact one important thing is being able to be flexible. One of my coaches, Alan Cantor, used to say all the time, you always need to have a plan, but also you should be constantly evaluating the position and figuring out how that plan might need to change. And of course, that's the same in business, especially, in a time of COVID, for instance, where, everything shut down. And in order to be successful, uh, you really needed to adapt.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I run into a lot of solopreneurs, very small business owners, say less than 10 employees, and many of them don't even have a plan.
Right.
And it absolutely, and I get it. I've spent many years having many different businesses, and I did not always have a plan. But I'm also not in any of those businesses anymore,
Mm.
and that's obvious. And I think that's in great part because I didn't put a plan together, and I didn't have a goal. I didn't have the mission where I'm starting from here. Here's where I want to get to, and then work my way backwards to how am I going to get there. I'm doing that this time, and it's night and day. It's a big difference. But what other areas do you teach in? I mean, I know you have programs for students. You deal with people of all different ages and different levels of skill.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we teach age 3 to 100 plus. Um, and yeah, look, it's a lot of fun. And honestly, the way we teach different skill levels, and ages is not all that different, actually. We really just like to kind of constantly just, teach one thing at a day. We build confidence. I was listening to an interview yesterday with Ben Johnson and his international master, Dina Polito. And one thing they were, talking about is, especially in this day and age, there are, a lot of very talented kids, out there that, could be hard to compete with and whatnot, but you just need to, kind of consistently improve, work harder, and then, you know,
It's that's interesting because there's got to be a lot of challenges in working with kids. My first thought was, who's more difficult to teach, a 100-year-old or a 3-year-old? But when there's so many distractions out there for younger people. Video games
Yeah.
is huge, and cell phones and everything that goes with that. Um, I love the fact that you're getting some young folks to be more focused on life skills, and that's something that's very near and dear to me. It's something I think their school systems fail on miserably. Well, they can't fail because they don't try. So you can't fail if you don't try. But
Yeah. And Evan, I don't know if you still. Looks like we dropped him. His Wi-Fi may not be strong, but I think the interesting piece of kids today is they won't sit at a chessboard because it's not enough flashing lights. But I've watched a lot of these games that they play, and you have to have that critical thinking to figure out how to maneuver in that game to get to level up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? Now, chess is a thinking person's, as are a lot of maybe not Mario Kart, right? But there are adventure games that are out there, and I probably am saying this way wrong. Adventure games out there, but they probably call them something else. But the idea of thinking, what's the next move?
Here we go.
Where's the next? How's the? I think if chess, I think if chess had flashing lights and moving parts, kind of like on Star Wars.
You want Donkey Kong, don't you?
Yeah.
A lot of it would be.
Hey, Scott, Scott Giles, thanks for joining in and saying hello. Good morning to you as well. Appreciate you being on here, and we will get Ken's mic fixed.
Yeah, they're fine.
But
put the phone in your other ear, Scott. You'll be fine. So Evan, what is it about the game of chess that attracted you to it? And then, as you have on your website, right there, conquer the game, master your
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that actually came from a friend, Lee Handelman, who's an expert copywriter. But to be honest, really, I do believe that. I think a lot of businesses and individuals and schools that want to be successful struggle because they don't have a creative outlet to build their critical thinking and judgment training skills, and chess really gives it to them. So you could kind of fail to think critically and lose a huge business deal, or you could kind of do that in a chess game and then lose a game and then move on and win the next one.
Yeah,
but not lose your biggest client, or even worse, literally lose your business.
I love your thinking, and I agree with you. This is something that we don't teach in schools at any level, and I think it is so critical. I know that if you talk to people in school systems, as I have, you'll learn that they try to say, well, how do you learn critical thinking? Oh, we teach geometry. Like, okay, I said, do your students know that? Because if they don't know that's what they're supposed to be learning, how are they learning it? If you're not conscious of these things, then you're not really learning, unless you're just a pure natural. And maybe you're our pure natural, being a national champion at such a young age. Do you feel that had natural skills, or were those really just hard work in developing it?
It's definitely a mix. It's a common question. Could you become a master or a grandmaster without any natural talent, or could you learn it? I think it's definitely a combination. I do think that it also depends on the player too. There are players that are just naturally gifted. I was actually just this morning listening a little bit to a podcast interview with international master Levy Rosman, who I've known since he was quite young, and this Indian grandmaster. get his name offhand, but he quickly rose up actually to be pretty much one of the elite players in the world, and he's 19. So clearly he has a lot of natural talent. And that's one thing that he said. He said relatively compared to the other elite players, his preparation is not as good. That's something that he's quickly catching up on, and also has, of course, several coaches that he works with to do that. But yeah, I guess like the short answer is, look, I myself, for instance, read probably relatively few chess books compared to a lot of others. Um, I do have like many chess friends who are not of the same level, who have read, let's say, a lot more than me.
Yeah.
But look, at the same time, I will say that look, it really is both, and it depends on the player.
I like the point.
Yeah.
I like the point that so many of us, when we're younger, we have natural talents. Whether we're gifted in studies or we're gifted in athletics, and we think and we ride those coattails. I mean, I did that. I played semi-pro soccer my senior year of high school. Thinking, oh boy, that's the way to go, until I got deeper and deeper into that world and realized, boy, my gifted talents aren't good enough to get me as far as I'd like to go. And you really have to put in the time and the effort and the work to get over that hump, unless you're the most gifted person in that world. But so, this is a good lesson for people to learn right now is regardless of how gifted you are, it still takes a lot of work to develop the skills needed, to reach the highest levels.
So, Evan, a question's come in, and when you're dealing with businesses, is each day a new game, or is it a quarter? Is it a month? How do you talk to corporations about how you move chess into and those strategies? So is it different for every business, or like when you're working with Google, let's say, as you have,
Sure.
do you say each day is a new game, so you have to come in ready to go, or is it each project is a new game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good question. I would say like maybe every day is a move, let's say, and every project is a new game, let's say. I do think all the small things are important too, and I think it's important to both kind of prepare beforehand, but then also be able to think at the board. So I've seen many times, for instance, in a chess game, students will know an opening or an end game very, very well because they've seen it many, many times before. But then at the board, have literally either the same or a very similar, end game, and just completely mess up because they're moving so quickly and forget the move order or you forget one important detail, right? So I tell students all the time, if you could look at a opening or an end game a million times, you should still spend time at the board. And of course, that's the same, in business too. I think I've lost a couple deals before, just because I'm kind of going through the motions and, don't spend enough time and don't individualize, each client and, what they need. I don't do enough discovery in the beginning. I have like preconceived notions. And I think that's important to consider. I mean, I remember one time thinking like a chess player when I was at Rapid 7. I used to sell data security, and there was one prospect in the CRM that basically like a few other reps that had the account before me basically all said, look, don't pay too much attention to this guy. He like wants free trials and stuff, and he never has any budget. But I yes did my preparation, and I kind of kept that in mind. But at the same time, I was thinking on my feet. So I called the guy, and I took that with a grain of salt. He said, "Oh, I'm interested." Blah blah. And again, I kind of took that, with a grain of salt because of what I read. Look, we stayed in touch, and sure enough, like shortly after that, like 2 months later, he got this big grant, and I closed a pretty big deal with the guy. And even my manager was like, "What are you doing? Like, look at the CRM. Like, why are you even wasting any time with this guy?" And then he
that's outstanding.
said the opposite, obviously, when I closed the deal, with the person. So, I think you need to take everything with face value. And now there's also, in a similar vein too, there's a lot of chess openings today, for instance, that were very good in the past that are not so good now. And now there's also, a lot of lines that in the past were pretty much down the drain, and one grandmaster found some ideas with the computer, or their coaches, and now they're almost mainline.
Yeah, there's an old book, and it's probably older than you are, called "Who Moved My Cheese," and that's pretty much exactly what's happened to us over the last 2-3 years. There's been a major shift being in mindset on how business can be done, different ways it can be done. We've been introduced to different technologies, different paths towards common goals. I love the fact that you say, you talk about paying attention, because I often say, and I mean often, like every week, many times I say, the cheapest thing for you to ever pay for is paying attention. And yet it seems to be the hardest thing for most people to do. And I'm guilty, as anybody, but paying attention, that's a skill.
Well, right? and on that point, and Evan, this is a good question to you as well. I mean, if every day is a move, do you recap the day? Do you suggest business people recap the day? Because I know a lot of business people are like, well, 5 o'clock, punch out, have a beer, go home, and that's it. So as you're coaching and training business owners and managers and successful people, do you say, hey, you know what? After you make that move, you got to kind of look at it. So after that day, do you recap the day, or what do you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good question. Yeah, I think being able to learn from your mistakes, of course, is a huge part of the game. Actually, so I think that you really want to make sure that you're learning from everything. My colleague Elliot Neff of Just for Life in Seattle, who has been on my podcast as well, likes to say, like, you either win, you lose, or you win, you draw, or you learn. So there's no losing per se. And I think that is an important idea. So yeah, every move you make, every day, I try to just think about what happened, what could be better, prepare for the next day, of course.
Is that something?
That was one thing that actually one of my managers at Oracle, I remember, used to say, actually, the last half hour of the day should be, kind of looking at your appointments the next day, doing any kind of preparation. And then the same thing, the first 10 minutes of the next morning. Actually at Rapid 7, we had a team meeting with our engineer every morning for 10-15 minutes, just to talk about the calls for the day, the game plan for the day. It helped quite a bit.
Yeah, and Kent, you were asking if I did that, and I will tell you, I think it depends on your day, your job, what tasks you're doing. But I think it is important to wrap up your day. When I was an underwriter doing loans, at the end of the day, I would write down notes of exactly where I left off. And that would be the last 10, 15 minutes of my day, so that when I came in the next morning, I knew exactly where to start. I knew where I was going, how my day was going to roll out, because you only get a couple hours in that morning where you can do what you want to do, and then the day blows up and you have to do what you have to do. So your plans change on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, Evan, if people want to know more about what you do, if they want to hire you out for some corporate training, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, you could certainly go, obviously, to our website, premierchess.com. All of our information is there. On the bottom there is also a link to my calendar, www.calendly.com/premierchess as well. Best thing to do is, set up some time to talk. Yeah, you could also, of course, email evan@premierchess.com. And yeah, would love to, certainly be in touch. Look, we also help a lot of organizations fundraise with silent auction and raffle items. We also do virtual fundraisers for a lot of organizations all around the world, actually. So, we're always opening the door. And, one thing that, I do like to, actually talk about too a little bit is our target market, contrary to often popular belief, is our target market is not chess players.
That makes sense.
I was talking to someone that I met in a networking meeting the other day. And, it was a great call until, honestly, the very end, when the person was like, yeah, I'll be in touch, when I hear, other chess players, looking, to learn more. And I said, well, you missed a lot of the point. No, I was talking about Google and Citigroup and, a bunch of schools.
Right.
I was like, no, I want to hear the next time you talk to anyone in K-12 education, any business with 50 plus, employees, any individual who just wants to learn business and life skills. So that's, truly, and this becomes honestly a challenge a little bit, but, that almost anyone, so.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We keep coming back to life skills. And,
you're in financial literacy, your target market is not financial planners. That's kind of the analogy that I like to use.
I don't like to talk to people who think they already know everything.
Yeah, right.
They already know everything. They don't need someone like yourself.
Right.
In general.
But that's why you're right. I mean, my business isn't about, I no longer, I still hold all my licenses to be a business advisor, but I don't really practice as much as I used to, because that's not really my focus anymore. It's more the literacy, like you said. It's kind of like, be careful how you label somebody, because you're going to pigeonhole them into something instead of taking what they could be a great asset for you, and you've now put them in a hole saying, yeah, I don't need that. And teaching life lessons, I think, is much more important than just about anything else in life, because we don't teach it. We don't teach it in school. We don't get it from at home very often. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rules, but it's important to learn. And in the corporate world, if you really want to do well, and I don't mean be super successful racing up the ladder. I mean, if you want to enjoy what you're doing, if you enjoy your work and you enjoy your life, you need to develop life skills. And where do you go to get them? There's just not that many places. So I love how you've incorporated what you're passionate about, the game of chess, into the game of life. And I love that idea. It's what I'm trying to do as well. My passion for finance into helping people understand better. I was just talking with somebody yesterday, another financial gentleman, and he was telling me, he goes, it's interesting. I talked to an 89-year-old last week, a new client, and he had the same concerns as the 29-year-old I talked to last week.
Interesting.
Both still concerned about, am I going to run out of money?
Hmm.
Or how do I, do I have enough money? And it's interesting because the 29-year-old hasn't been taught yet how to deal with money, and the 89-year-old who's already way past deep into retirement is still concerned about the one thing: am I going to have enough money to live the rest of my life? Because I don't know how long I'm going to live. But at 89, you're already pushing the envelope. So if you,
Yeah, and everyone is. I was just talking to my cousin actually, who's recently retired. Look, she's relatively confident, but she's not 100% sure.
right,
So yeah, I mean, I think
and yet people won't go out and seek information and knowledge to help bring them peace of mind, to understand where they are at and what they can expect. People don't do that. They don't do that in your world. Because you're out there teaching these life lessons through the game of chess. I try to teach life lessons through the world of finance.
mm,
But so we have a similar passion, and a similar thought process in how we're trying to help folks. But I know, Deb, welcome. Thanks for joining in. Deb Dietz, my partner.
hello.
I'm
Yep. And Deb says, I think the value of kids playing chess is that they learn to think deeply about the decisions they make and how those choices might affect them or others. Playing chess requires playing against an opponent, so kids learn to anticipate the moves of their opponent, which actually helps build empathy. Yeah, that's good, but I can also say that about a 60-year-old businessman. Right?
yeah, and that's certainly part of it, right? I mean, that's part of what you're trying to teach, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and again, it's to everyone. It's the same skills for everyone. I was just talking to someone the other day who want lessons for like her 4-year-olds. I quoted her for some private lessons, and she said, "Oh, that's a little high. I just want someone for like a 4-year-old." But I said, like, look, at the end of the day, like for one, we actually have some 4-year-olds playing in our tournaments. Two, like we're thinking long term. The, my same coaches who teach at Google, are the same ones who teach young kids for the most part.
Are you getting the same questions from those different groups?
Yeah, a lot of them. Look, the only thing I say is it takes young kids longer. I can teach the typical adult from complete beginner to basic knowledge of the game and strategy within 2 or 3, 4 lessons. The typical, 4-year-old, that'll take, 8 to 12 weeks or, beyond. But other than that, I mean, it's similar. And again, we're teaching them how to think. Yesterday I was reviewing with a group of high schoolers, like a thought process that, really relates to, anything, and I teach that, of course, in corporate classes as well. Just to give you like, a sample of it, starting from, why did your opponent make a move? Doing your, competitor analysis, then, coming up with, candidate moves, coming up with, different options. There's been many times where, I was going to spend, let's say $100 on a marketing campaign, and then I realized, wow, there's actually several other good options that I should consider. Then figuring out which one gives you the biggest return on investment. Then kind of thinking, wow, if you have a good move, look for a better move, right? And then of course doing a blunder check where you're making sure that there's nothing you overlook. And that happens, of course, in business too. I remember there was one day where I was all set to, promote a tournament, a couple years ago, and then I kind of did my blunder check. I looked at the calendar, and I realized there was like another major tournament going on. Where if I competed against that, I would have been lucky to get like a handful of kids. There. So that's of course important. Both in business and chess and pretty much any other area of life as well.
Like you pointed out, you look to do something good, and then you look to do it better.
Exactly.
A lot of folks in business, and you talk about advertising and things, a lot of folks in business think, oh, that's a great idea. I will run with that. And they put their investment in it. But instead of saying, okay, let me do my homework, let me do a little research here. Let's see what my ROI can be. Let's see what effects this can have. And maybe there's something out there that's better, more efficient, hits more of your market.
So the other question that I am concerned about, and this goes to both of you guys, is, and Drew, good morning, glad to have you with us, brother. One of the owners,
Drew!
one of the owners of 216 Studios.
Cappuccino.
Listen,
Hello.
listen. Here's the question: in the game of chess, in the game of business, there's always distractions or people trying to distract you. You know what I'm saying? How do you talk to business owners? How do you talk to chess players to get them to I don't know, put their blinders on so they don't see those distractions, or they don't get distracted by those distractions?
Yeah, I think primarily it's just being able to block things out, not worrying. I tell people all the time that look, you go play in the park.
Yeah.
In the park there's a lot of distractions, and
But your environment, I like that.
Yeah, that's
it's your environment, and then also look, one thing that I've actually done a fair amount of research on is who wins like the nationals and major tournaments. Very often it's not the player who's ranked number one in the section. It's the person who has like the most stamina. If you look at the recent Olympiad, the U.S. was like one of the top teams. They ended up not, unfortunately, been making a medal. And then the team that won was this Uzbekistan team, who was like very much underrated. But they were like a bunch of teenagers, who just like beat everybody.
Yeah, I mean, distractions can come in many different forms, right?
Right.
First, are you allowing yourself to be distracted? And if so, why?
Yeah.
Because maybe the subject at hand is not of interest to you or intriguing enough. There's lots of different reasons, but even in the game of chess in particular, in my very limited abilities in playing the game of chess, we always you do a distraction. You try to distract somebody, whether you slam a bottle down or or make a sound or something out there. And athletes do this all the time in all different kinds of sports. And some of that we call trash talking. But, it's a matter of, to me, how much you are going to allow yourself to be distracted. But you're also right in the environment that you put yourself in. You're more apt to pay attention in a very closed environment, right? Like an office or something, as opposed to being in a park.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, you're out there in the park, you're playing chess, and a beautiful girl walks by. You probably have lost all your attention to what's going on in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's just life.
That it is life.
That's it. Hey, listen, you're listening to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse here, 216 The Net. Check us out on TuneIn Radio. Just go out to TuneIn and search 216 The Net. put that in as your favorite. If you got Apple Music, do the same thing, because we're live all the time on Apple Music. If you haven't liked, followed, subscribed to all of our social media, you jump over to Twitter right now at studios_216, where we're live as well. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, we're there. Not
LinkedIn.
we're not TikTokian yet, but hey, we're out there. And you know, you can get your daily dose of encouragement any time of the day now by just tuning in to 21.6. Of course, we've got Evan Rabin with us. I hopefully said that right, Rabin?
Rabin, but it's all
Rabin.
good.
Okay, good. Thanks. With the last name of Jones, yeah, every other last name is hard except Smith and Patel. But we're there, right?
Hey, I still get Christmas cards that have misspelled my last name, and there's only 5 letters.
Right.
So,
and that's from family.
yeah.
But Evan is a national chess champion. Are you a master yet or no?
I'm a national master.
National master. That's cool to me right there. And his website we're going to throw up there. But, you know, as Bill has out there, it's premierchess.com. Check it out.
Yeah.
Unique part is how Evan and his team have interwoven chess into strategic business concepts,
Strategies.
and strategies,
Yeah.
and how to win. He does training. He's trained companies, little ones, Google, you know, Citibank, little ones. So just brilliant at what he does, and blessed to have him on with you this morning, Bill. But really just want to give him a shout out too, and make sure that you check out premierchess.com. Great stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot more to it than you think. That's for
right.
sure.
That's right.
That is for sure. But so, Evan, what are some of the other areas that you get into, you know, that's outside the corporate world?
We might have froze him with my long-winded break there.
Oh, I threw a tough question out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he is en route. I mean, he's mobile right now. He's not from his office because he actually has a tournament. I think
that's right. He's got a tournament coming up in about 18 minutes.
Yeah. Head over to coach. So if we jumps back on, we'll be blessed to take him. But just an amazing. I marvel at the people who take their passion, Bill, and turn it into a business. You're one of those people who's doing that.
Passion, gift, skill.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to do that and to do what Evan is doing, I agree. It's you know, people say find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Good luck with that. Okay. The reality is find out what your gift is, find out what your talents are, and move that into your working world, and you're going to be a happier person. Evan, I know I threw a tough question at you, and so we lost you. But I was
sorry
asking, you know, what outside the corporate world, what are some of the areas, the other parts of the world that you bring your mindset to?
Yeah, I think look, I'm very involved in the Jewish community. You know, thank God. You know, my wife and I love you know, hosting Shabbat dinners. You know, I love building you know, community together. You know, and I also like just inspiring you know, others. You know, on a personal side, this has been a little bit of a crazy year and in a good way. You know, at the beginning of the year, you know, was single. And you know, but then you know, met someone in February and got engaged in 6 weeks and married in 6 months. Wow. You know,
when you know, you know,
and you know, when you know, you know, and you know, look, my wife and I were talking to you know, a couple last night, for instance, who knew each other for 13 years and have been dating for 3 years, and you know, they were like, just wow. You know, people, you know, so I guess what I'm you know, what I'm trying to say is you know, I do like inspiring others. And you know, look, in the Orthodox Jewish world, for instance, you know, in general, it's you know, a little bit more common, you know, to
it happens differently for everybody.
but look, we we just want to I guess inspire people just to not have limiting beliefs. And of course, this is in business too. I know many people who have wanted to become entrepreneurs over the years, but just for X, Y, and Z reasons, just kept saying, "Oh, I don't know how we could get started, this and that." But like for me, when I first started Premier Chess 5 years ago, within the first 2 months, we were in 14 schools, and I had 10 instructors working for me.
That's outstanding.
And I only say that, just to show that, look, if you don't have limiting beliefs and you just try, you could do it.
Well, you bring up an
Basically.
important factor here. So the very first thing you said, people say, "Oh, I want to do this, but I don't know how to get started." That is so very, very common. And
You
it's
just get started. It's that
just
simple.
get started. Don't know.
You got to make your first move on the chessboard.
But this is what freezes business owners, and what makes them big ideas fail, little ideas fail, is their failure to make decisions and to move forward. And so most who know me on this show know I come from 20 years in the trading pits, where the old adage was make the trade and manage the risk.
Yeah.
In other words, make a decision. It doesn't have to be perfect or right. But
as one of my really good friends and mentors, fellow entrepreneurs, Michael Doyce likes to say, say yes and figure it out later.
Yeah. Same
which
concept.
I think is, very important. I have one friend who was trying to get a chiropractor business off the ground several years ago. Now she's fairly, successful at what she does, but at the time she was like, "Oh, I'm not really sure I could get started because I don't really have a logo. My website's not up and running. This and that, and I kept telling her, like, look, you're a doctor. No one's hiring you because of your logo." I couldn't tell you if any of my current doctors have like logos.
Right.
Just get started, word of mouth. Go network. Talk to other chiropractors, talk to physical therapists. Other people who could be, physical trainers, and so on. Don't worry about all that stuff. All that stuff could come later, or maybe even never.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're not guaranteed. You're not locked into any one direction.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I try to point out is keep yourself and your mind open to opportunities, different directions, different ways to, let's say, skin a cat. We tend to get ourselves so locked in, and it's got to work just this way or it's never going to happen, and likely it won't happen if you don't leave the opportunity for other influences to change your plan.
Deb says, Evan, this year's been a movement in businesses to focus and build their quote unquote soft skills of their employees. Hard skills are table stakes, but the soft skills like decision making and problem solving are becoming more and more critically important in business. Business leaders should consider incorporating chess into their employee professional development programs. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely important. I think, look, like I said before, chess gives a creative platform for critical thinking and decision-making skills. You could lose a chess game and, live, or you could, lose your biggest client making, a silly mistake.
Right.
We've, I think, probably all done that, before. So, or lose, a business deal. So, I think also chess gives a way for employees to network.
Well, they need to develop those communication skills, right, at each level. And the corporate world is historically known for crushing creativity.
Oh yeah.
And as Deb has pointed out, that skill is actually now being sought after as something much more valuable than it has been historically. and I've seen that. We've been learning that some of the big companies, Fortune 100 companies, are even saying we're not so sure we're going to require college degrees anymore. We need more of those entrepreneurial minded, creative minded people coming through and bringing their mindset into the game. And so I think that's softening up, and I hope that is, and I hope that continues and grows because, then I think that like the folks that you help out will be more successful and more happy. And when I say successful, I mean happy. Financially, you know, I Kent knows me all too well that I don't keep score on financials, which is funny because I've been in the money world my whole life, and I don't care about money. But it's a way to judge people, I guess, historically. But when I say successful, I mean happiness, and you're teaching life skills that I think will provide people with a better opportunity to be happy in life.
Yeah.
Going forward. So kudos to you. I appreciate that.
Now I know
Thank you.
I know you have a tournament you got to get to, and we've got about 10 more minutes. Can you hang out for 10 more minutes with us, or?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, sweet,
Cool.
sweet. I didn't want to hold you up, so that is awesome. Now, when we talk about business strategies and innovative strategies,
Yep.
do you say, all right, here's the Queen's Gambit, right? I'm not even saying that right. Gambit. I don't know what it is,
Gambit.
right? And on the chessboard, and here's the Queen's Gambit for your business. I mean, do you relate it things like that, or how do you convert your passion of chess into the business world?
Yeah, I think for me, it's more just teaching the skills and showing them how truly business is a chess game. Mindset is very important. You need to be able to recognize change and not let that damage your confidence or anything, and being able to adapt and just move forward.
That's fantastic.
Well, let me ask you something with the serious potential of me embarrassing myself here. The Queen's Gambit, is that not a particular move? That is a specific strategy to start a game?
So the Queen's Gambit is an opening, one of the more
Okay.
regular openings: D4, D5, C4, and
I did my homework.
A
A little,
and of course, it was an analogy for the movie, of course,
because there is a King's Gambit, right?
there is.
And
So a gambit in
as far as I'll
chess
push it on my knowledge.
yeah.
But therein lies an opening strategy, right? So when people say, I don't know where to begin, well, okay, let's start with an opening strategy, a first move.
Right.
Because I often tell people that I work with in businesses that want to develop their businesses, I say, well, okay, let's figure out, where are you at? You're just in a concept mode right now. Okay, fine. Where do you want to be? What is your ultimate goal that you want to get to? And, what time frame? We could say 1 year, 3 or 5 years. I typically won't go beyond that. And then I help folks work their way backwards. Okay, how are we going to get to that point that we want to be at in 1, 3, and 5 years? But it's a little more difficult in chess, right? Because you know where you want to get to. You want to get to the king, and working your way backwards is hard because you don't know the opponent's moves and strategies.
Correct. So you always need to think about your plan, but also your opponent's plan. But also one thing to kind of contrary, I believe chess is not just about. I mean, for one common misconception is kings get captured in chess. They don't. Checkmate is how you win a chess game. But also, kind of like more importantly, if you just try to kind of go all out and attack your opponent's game, that's not gonna work, right? You also want to only attack actually if there's some sort of positional reason that justifies an attack. Otherwise you want to, kind of build your position first, right? And then get to a point where you could, simplify and then ultimately, try to win.
Yeah.
Right.
Scott Giles says a big problem most people have is fear of failure or making the wrong move. If they only knew how many times an entrepreneur fails per day. Well, and,
Right.
and well, but at the
True.
but at the same time, that's why I asked the question of Evan earlier in the show: is a day a game or is a day a move? So if you approach it as the game, as Evan said, is the project, or the project is the game, a day is just a move. So you can't necessarily fail in that day, right?
Well,
Yeah.
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to fail, and if you're not, then you're not an entrepreneur, or you're not trying hard enough.
Well, and that's where I'd argue and say you learn. You fail when you quit. When you take your piece and lay it over and say I'm done.
Yeah.
That's when you fail. As an entrepreneur, you learn. I'm going to make a move, and into what Evan has been saying is that's a move. Now what happens? How do I react?
Yeah.
What is my next move?
Well, as an
Right.
entrepreneur, you have to understand that you have to go into it with the mindset that, look, I'm not going to make every decision right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
make the best decision
Right.
every time. And that there are going to be times where I'm going to run into problems that I did not foresee.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
yes, and I agree with you, Kent. It's how do I deal with that?
Yeah.
And that's what this show is all about, is we try to help people understand with each guest that we bring on here, the potential for
Yeah.
you running into this problem or that kind of problem or this
Yeah.
issue or that concern. And here are solutions to help you get through that and get past that.
Shanna asked a great question. And good morning, my friend. She says, I've never played chess, but it's easy to correlate thinking ahead and general success. Evan, what do you do to push yourself when you aren't feeling the passion of the pursuit?
Great question.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, for instance, is one reason that I strongly, recommend students, play tournaments early and often. I've had many, players, especially now, in the, kind of COVID world where a lot of players are like, oh, I've been playing online for like a long time, and I think this is like roughly my skill level, blah blah blah. But I keep telling them, like, honestly, you have no idea your skill level. You haven't played an over the board tournament. I had a kid, high school kid, a couple days ago, like, or I think actually a few weeks ago now, say like, oh, like you're gonna be proud of me. I played like 300 games this weekend, and I'm like, how many games did you play over the board? Kind of knowing the answer already.
Right.
Oh, none. And I was like, okay, well, you didn't really play any games in my book.
Right.
Honestly. So I think the point is you need to get out and play, be able to deal with the tournament pressure. If you play online and you lose a game and you're not in the mood to play another one, okay, you don't. You just, go do your next thing.
I like that. I have an old saying I use. It's like, get a glove, get in the game.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we know that Evan's got to rip out of here, so we're going to let him go. We're down to about the last minute. So, Evan, thanks for jumping on.
Really appreciate you having you on and bringing your gift and your passion to our listeners, and hopefully they'll be reaching out to you and seeking a little bit more counsel.
That's it. All right.
Thank you, and I really appreciate your invitation to come on.
Always glad to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Kent, thanks. And everybody, thanks for listening in. Scott, Drew, Deb, Shanna, appreciate you all coming in and bringing some great questions and participating and listening in.
There you go. For all of us here at 216 The Net, make it a great day, everybody. And remember, tune in for great music and a lot of fun. Thanks, and have a great day.
See you next week.
Thank you.